Welcome to the Science and Spirituality Podcast, where we dive deep into universal spiritual principles and ground them in modern science. My name is Chris Carton.
And my name is Kevin Carton. And we are committed to simplifying the spiritual side of success for you with easy to understand scientific research so you could walk away with practical tools to create radical transformations in your life. Let's get started.
All right, so we had a hard time beginning this podcast episode. Just going to level with you all in the very beginning, because Kevin and I are both feeling a little overwhelmed today. And so, we spent 10, 15 minutes discussing other topics and we weren't really feeling any of them. And then Kev, I don't know if it was you or if it was me, was just like, why don't we just do an episode about what to do when you're feeling overwhelmed?
Yeah, I said that because you said you were like, I asked how you were feeling from yesterday, of like what came up, and it's like, well, feeling overwhelmed. It's like, oh, that could be a good topic.
Yeah.
So honestly, help us move through it.
Yeah, just to talk it out. And I mean, for everyone listening, maybe you're feeling overwhelmed right now. But regardless of if you are or not, there's going to be times in your life where you're feeling super overwhelmed. Like the walls are closing in, you don't know what to do. You're super anxious, like you're thinking a lot. You can't get out of a certain mindset. And because you can't get out of a certain mindset, you can't get out of a certain emotional, physiological state. And so you feel stuck. And so I was feeling that way yesterday and, part of today. And so we just wanted to talk about some tips about what you can do when you're feeling super overwhelmed. And so, Kev, you were mentioning earlier that you haven't gone on a walk today. And so that's actually where I want to start.
Okay.
Because as someone with anxiety and who suffers from anxiety, I know that I can spend hours and hours trying to think my way out of an issue or trying to think my way out of overwhelm back into a whelmed state.
Yes.
And it just won't work. But we have another avenue. The thinking your way out of it's called the top-down approach. But there's also a bottom-up approach where you change your physiology, you change the way your body feels, or you change the way your body feels to then change how you're thinking. And so going for a walk is actually one of my favorite things to do, because you're moving. You're getting out. Like if you've been sitting on the couch or sitting in your room feeling overwhelmed, that energy has been building in like the ether of that space. And like you'll just continue to go down, down, down if you're in a place like that. So get outside, go for a walk. Maybe listen to some music or listen to a good podcast, and just allow yourself to not know the answers. Like let it be okay that you don't know the answer, but just move your body and get some movement in, change your physical state.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that actually, well, as you're sharing that, it brought up another idea that goes along with that, about moving your body to change your state of being is breathing. It's another way of moving. It's going into your body to then change your state of mind, because our breath, it has direct connections to, I think it's our vagus nerve. That if you have a deep breath, like not just the surface breath, but where you feel like that breath is actually expanding your belly, it actually activates that nerve, which is not in control, or unless I think you would know this better if it's in control or like has a major control over the difference between the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous system. Is that correct to say?
Yeah, the vagus nerve is the main parasympathetic nerve.
Okay,
because it innervates all of your major organs. Boom. And your heart rate, like heartbeat, all of that stuff. And when you take a deep breath, like a deep belly breath,
yes,
it actually activates these baroreceptors in your abdomen that sense the stretch. And those receptors activate the vagus nerve, and it releases acetylcholine, which is the neurotransmitter that the vagus nerve releases to activate the parasympathetic state. So there's actually some physiology around deep breathing like that.
Sweet. Yeah. And that as we activate the parasympathetic nervous system, then obviously we're just more relaxed and at ease, because that's what the parasympathetic nervous system is in charge of. But also another side benefit, if you're feeling overwhelmed and you take these deep breaths and you activate more of the parasympathetic nervous system, is that obviously you're not in the sympathetic nervous system as much anymore, which is in charge of fight, flight, and freeze. So in other words, the survival. Yeah. It's the reaction. And that's coming from our amygdala, the reptilian brain, where there's no conscious rational thinking. It's just like a reaction, like a knee-jerk reaction, like run or hide, or well, that's why procrastination sets in, or like you don't feel like doing anything because like when you're overwhelmed, because the sympathetic nervous system is active. So
Mhm.
like it could even combine like both deep breathing and like moving your body, like dancing, going for a walk, running, exercising, anything like that, so that it's even more powerful to then shift you to this sympathetic nervous system and just activate more of your conscious rational thinking, the
Yeah.
prefrontal cortex of your brain.
Yeah, and that can help you change thought processes and thought patterns that you've been stuck in for a while.
Yeah.
Another thing that I just thought of literally doing this podcast is talking it out. Like, I don't
Mm,
know if you're listening, if you have someone who you trust, and this also goes back to our vulnerability episode. If you haven't heard about that one, like
yeah.
stepping into that vulnerability and actually sharing how you feel with someone,
Yeah.
it's crazy how you can be thinking thoughts that get you into a state of overwhelm all day. And then when you tell someone those thoughts that you're thinking, like you actually express them, you realize a lot of ways that they might be irrational because you almost hear yourself say it and you're like, oh wow, like maybe it isn't that bad. Because then you
Yeah.
go, you know, you're bringing it up and then you're like, oh wait, but I can do this and I can do this. Whereas you wouldn't have that clarity if it was all up in your head still.
Exactly.
So if you don't have someone to talk to, or if you don't, feel like you want to open up to someone right now because you're like that overwhelmed, you can always write.
Yeah.
Writing stuff out actually helps because it's kind of like putting your thoughts on paper,
Yeah.
and
Just
again,
expressing it.
yeah, it allows you to see it from like a bird's eye view and be like, all right, and like you can draw connections to here and here and here, and it just makes it feels better just to get it out.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
And so I realized as we were sharing, like a lot of these things are connecting with the science of transforming the overwhelm to a sense of whelm,
Mhm.
where we're relaxed or at ease and we feel like we know what to do and where to go and what just how things can change. But also the spirituality of it is tapping into the truth that this is good,
Mhm.
like not good in the sense that you want to stay in this overwhelm, but there's a deeper reason of why this is coming up. Like if you're feeling overwhelmed, then there's some growth that is seeking to emerge. That's
Yeah.
the fundamental truth,
Mhm.
because growth only happens outside of our comfort zone, which is uncomfortable, and many times it feels like that overwhelm.
Yeah.
And so we learn about ourselves, we learn about life, we learn about others as we identify what's happening, as in why we're feeling overwhelmed, and then shifting that feeling, like with what we've been talking about, uh, because then you can have that clear view, a clear
Yeah.
vision of what's happening, what's the truth about this overwhelm, and then what you can do about it to move through it. And then you look back, even just a day later, but at least a week, a month later, it's just like, okay, looking back, I learned a lot from that. If you use this overwhelm well, like
Yeah.
you use the time well to actually learn and grow from it.
Mhm.
But that has to be a conscious effort.
Yeah. And I just want to bring up too, just hearing that, like, I don't want people to put pressure on themselves to be like, oh God, like I gotta find some spiritual truth in this overwhelm. Like sometimes
Yeah,
like you're just overwhelmed. And when you put that added pressure on yourself, like, yeah, Kev, like what you said is like, that's correct. Like eventually you'll get to that point.
yeah,
Because when you're overwhelmed, like again, it is bringing stuff up to the surface that needs to be dealt with, and growth is the answer.
yeah.
But sometimes even that growth is like, it scares you even more, and so you're back
Mm,
into that overwhelm because you're just not ready to move out of it. So I think this whole idea is, don't put so much pressure on yourself to come out of it. Like allow yourself to feel those things and be like, all right, like it's okay that I'm feeling this way, and kind of start using the tools that we've been talking about to move your body back into the parasympathetic state, where you can better deal with that overwhelm and see the spiritual side of it and the growth that can come out of it.
yeah,
Um, yeah, I think
yeah.
that's such.
That's more like the spiritual part of it is more of the vision, like
Mhm.
what's it all for, so that may help. But if it doesn't, then yeah, like don't stress out over it. Like it's okay to not be okay.
Yeah.
Like that, it's think about this. This is one thing that's really helped me, not only with overwhelm but also other contractive emotions that are feeling unpleasant. Is that it's part of our human experience.
Mhm.
Like we wouldn't be able to feel it if it wasn't meant to be a part of our experience, right? Like because that's just it's like the rainbow of human emotions and experience. It's just that it may not feel good, you may not want to be there, but we have that part of our body and nervous system and all that we can process this. So like it's in essence, again, like I keep going back to like, this is good, like to some degree. So yeah, I don't know. I hope I made my point clear with that, because like something I'm seeing is like, it's a side of life.
Yeah. No, definitely. And I think we talked about feeling. Did we do an episode of feeling emotions, or I think we did. Maybe we just touched on it in another episode.
That might be a good
But
episode though.
yeah.
Like actually feeling emotions, like
Mhm.
what's the process of that?
No, yeah, that's a good idea. We should write that on the list.
I will.
Um, but I also wanted to bring up too, just given everything that's been going on in the world, like it's just more of a evidence to just give yourself some space sometimes.
Yeah.
Just be okay with not having all the answers. But then also like having that like trust that they'll come, you know, and it's in that like space that you can work through this overwhelm. Um, but yeah, I don't really have any more tips right now for that. I think.
Trying to think of any stories, like things that really helped. Yeah, actually, I'll tell a quick story.
Okay.
So this is, and actually, I was thinking about sharing this with my clients today on my life mastery class. That years ago, when I was living in Texas, so my past life, I was a yoga teacher, and I also worked for my fraternity. I was a house advisor, in other words, a house dad. It was the largest chapter of Phi Kappa Psi in the nation in the United States. I was in Texas, and um, I I stretched myself way too thin while I was there. I had 4 different jobs, technically, jobs and sort of business ideas. Like I was working for my fraternity, as I said. I was getting certified as a yoga teacher. I got a job working for a life coaching company, a part-time job, and I was working on a life coach or a network marketing business. And I had all these 4 things, and I felt super overwhelmed. I felt super spread thin. And the one thing that I felt like was like helping me was I had a relationship that developed over time while I was living in Texas. And I dated this girl for about 4 months, but then she broke up with me by text. It was the worst. Like I felt like someone just like stabbed me in the heart. It sucked. So like that was kind of like felt like the straw that broke the camel's back. If you ever heard of that analogy, it's just like that last thing that like just breaks everything down. And I felt like I was just crushed. I was like, I can't handle this anymore. So I was like super overwhelmed. And the only idea that I had, because I was just like so in my head about like what happened, like did I do something wrong, and then like how I could handle that while I was still having 4 different things going on and work wise. So I literally just, the only thought I had is just take a walk, just go for a walk. And also a particular place I was going to was a crystal shop. So I love crystals. I feel like just their energy, just like it lifts me up. So I was like, all right, I just got to get myself around some like good energy. It's actually another thing that might help. If you're feeling overwhelmed, it's like get yourself in a space that you feel safe, you feel uplifted by. Could be
Maybe
with
that's why
people.
walking feels so good, because you get outside in nature.
Yeah, exactly. So like I kind of combined it both. And on that walk, like I remember the moment things shifted. This is actually another thing of like how you can like reduce overwhelm or get past this is by giving, even in just a subtle way, because this is what really shifted for me. Is so that day I went on that walk. It was like a 40-minute walk, and I didn't care because I was like, I just need to just process, think, and just allow myself that space and time. And about halfway to that crystal shop, it was on this long stretch of a road, of a sidewalk, and no one else around, like no cars, no anything. There was one other person walking towards me. And as I got closer to this woman, it seemed like she was having a shitty day as well. And so I was like, oh crap. Like, I was like, just thinking about myself. It's like, man, like I have no idea what's going on in this person's life, but like they're feeling like anything like I am. Like I wish I could help. And so all I did, very simple, was as we passed by, I raised up my hand and said, high five for being alive. Like literally that's it. Like just for being alive, like high five. And she like lit up, just gave me a high five. And she was like, as we passed each other, she was like, I thank you. Like I really needed that today.
Yeah.
And I was like, damn, like I'm glad I did that, because honestly, I needed that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just another thing that just popped up in that story. Is like, as you give, you shall receive. And so that just changed my whole perspective and energy.
I think that also highlights the fact that when we're in states of overwhelm, like we feel super alone. Like we feel like no one else is experiencing the world the way we are.
Yeah.
And this also goes back to that vulnerability episode where once you share, then everyone else is like, yeah, I feel like shit too. Like, it's like, holy crap. Like, well, why haven't we been talking about this?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that lady was like, yes.
Yeah. I'm not in my own bubble. Yeah.
All right. You know what that's from?
Yeah. Sid, your Pop-Tarts are ready.
Yeah.
All right. Like, for anyone who doesn't know, that's from Toy Story.
Yeah, it was from, he got excited about Pop-Tarts?
I'm pretty sure it was.
Maybe waffles. Was it waffles? I thought it was him getting his rocket in the mail.
No, I'm pretty sure it was like literally just breakfast was ready and he was just lit up because he's a 10-year-old kid and just.
But like when I watched that when I was a kid, I felt that like about waffles, like.
Yep. When he was so excited for waffles, I felt that.
Yeah, I felt that.
It just reminded me of Shrek with a donkey. And in the morning, I'm gonna make me some waffles.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm really feeling the aster after this episode.
Hell yeah. Oh my God. Dude, there's a new one. What was it? No, because we started that season. So anyone,
I remember.
Obviously. We're talking about Young Justice. It's a show, but oh my God. I don't know if you watch, because I watched, there's like a whole another like 10, 12 episodes we haven't watched.
Oh, you finished it?
Yeah, I did.
I got to finish it then too, because I was
so good.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, but I'm trying to think of the I'll have to come back to you of like what was the other one that's like not technically a word, like disaster to ask.
Okay, yeah.
Overwhelmed to whelm. There was one other, but I'm trying. Oh yeah, I'm feeling traught right now.
Oh, you're feeling what?
Traught.
Like distraught.
It's my favorite one so far. Like, and Nightwing in one of the episodes, he goes like the guys are like asking like, "Are you all right? Like, you're good to like fight?" And he's like, "Yep, I'm traught, feeling the aster, and whelmed." Like he said all three of them in one sentence. I was like, yes. Yeah. Anyway, it's random shit. With that, I think we should end the episode. Like, we've been going off on a tangent that really doesn't relate, but I hope this has brought some laughter and kind of smile to your face, whoever's listening.
Laughter is a good thing to get through the overwhelm too. I forgot about that one. Laughter,
holy shit. We were talking about in the very beginning, or before we started the episode. But yeah, there we go. We added that in. All right, sweet. All right. Well, hope you all are feeling better after this episode, whether you were overwhelmed before or not. Hope you're feeling the aster, feeling whelmed, and you're pleasantly traught. And we'll talk with you in another episode. And that's it for today. So thanks for tuning in, and we really hope you enjoyed listening to this episode as much as we enjoyed recording it. So any questions, any comments, just connect with us on Instagram. You could always DM us at Kevin Francis Carton
and at Chris J. Carton. And also, if you feel guided to, the one thing we do ask is for you to please rate the podcast and leave us a review. This way we can reach more people and impact more lives with this amazing information. With that, we'll see you on the next episode.